back with a swollen head. Holy shit. That was some discomfort. As much discomfort as this fly's gonna be in a second. Man, so yesterday we went. I want to take Sarah down the river. We had our early Canadian Thanksgiving is today, I think. It's different than my American brothers and sisters, which is what, November 23rd, I think, or something. Somewhere around there. So thankfully we already had our turkey dinner. Yesterday we launched the boat. Once you launch the boat up the river, you're committed. You're going down the river. And we were on our way. We already dropped off my quad and the trailer for the boat way down river by my buddy's place. And first had to use the quad to drop the raft off upriver, and then bring it all the way back, drop it off. Sarah to come and get me, throw all the gear in her car, and go back up the top and walk down to the boat. And then while I started to walk down, I started to get this sharp pain right here. Right here. There's one tooth. Like every time I step, this pain was like, holy crap, right there. That sucker. And then it's to the point I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. What am I doing? I shouldn't be getting this boat. Like, it was hammering. Now, there's nothing worse than being a pussy and complaining, right? I can't stand that. It's like, alright, you're in pain. You don't have to let everybody know every 7 minutes, you know what I mean? And then we drifted down the river onto the next river, and then went upriver to this bend and hung out there, and thank God it started to subside to where I was still going to be able to fish and steer the boat and manage to have a good time. Which we did. And then I woke up this morning and my face was frickin' exploding. Still, I see it swollen right there. Holy crap, Ola. Just like that. So weird that could happen so fast. Bam! So, obviously off to emergency we went, which is what you're supposed to do, I guess. Holiday, everything's closed. I had to sit there for God knows how long. I was playing on the internet, and also that's where I saw them. I couldn't see any comments or make a comment, or I couldn't even see the community page at all. It's weird, it's blocked. I'm like, huh? What's going on? This is kind of weird. You couldn't even access the community page, which is just looking at photographs, right? There's nothing there. Anyways, I don't understand everything how the internet works. And then I tried to make a post. I found where I could actually see the community page and made a post on there. And then I'm like, I went to my hunting channel, same thing, couldn't access all these different things. I'm like, this is kind of weird, man. Did I do this? Killing time while I'm sitting there waiting for a doctor, which I think I was in there 3 or 4 hours. And then I finally figured it out. It was the Wi-Fi in the hospital doesn't allow you access to certain things. Kind of weird, right? Don't know anything about it. Anyway. And then the pain started to frickin' surge again to the point I was just sitting there going like this. Oh my God. You don't want to say anything, you don't want to be a pain in the ass. There's probably somebody in there who needs help first. But I finally said something to the ladies up there. I said, you guys, is there anything? I don't want to be a pain in the ass for anything you got for pain. And they did bring me some pills, and thank God that relieved it. There's nothing worse than pain in the head, right? I remember one time I had my jaw tore in half right there, and torn in half there. And I'm just not in the hospitals. I hate needles. I'll get a needle, but I'll avoid it at all costs unless I have to. I remember even then, I went home thinking, well, maybe if I just go to bed, I'll wake up in the morning, it'll be fine. Nope. It wasn't fine. It was tore completely in half. My bottom tooth go like this, right? And then got dropped off in emergency, and I remember I said to the lady, I waited there for I don't know how long just to get up to the counter. There's a lot of people in there, and the lady's like, and what's wrong with you? And I already sat there for 3 or something hours, I think, and I just looked at her and went, my jaw's broken. And then she mimicked me and goes, how do you know that? Like this, and I'm like, trust me, it's broken. And she goes, well, let a doctor decide that. And they put the little thing in my wrist and sent me back to the waiting room. I think I was there for another 3 or 4 hours. And then I woke up on a bed. And apparently I pitched forward out of my chair and passed out on the floor from the pain. I'll never forget that pain. And I think the top 2 pains in my life, I think physical pains, I've had my ankle broken right in half. Broke a couple ribs. That was pretty bad pain. Especially I broke a couple ribs one time right at the beginning of the guide season. I had to go horseback ride in to the mountains for 2 days roughly. I'd sleep on the ground, and I had 2 freshly broken ribs. I was out late going to go get all the horses with the quad, and there was a big washout along the fence line, the back pasture, brand new one. Didn't even know it was there, and I hit that sucker doing full speed. Boom! Into the steering wheel. Handlebars. So anyway, that pain was pretty good. But then the jaw pain was crazy. That was definitely insane pain with your jawbone torn in half. But the hemorrhagic fever that I caught in Asia, that's by far the worst. That was absolute insanity. And they nicknamed it, it's nicknamed, break bone virus, because every single one of your bones in your body feels like it's breaking. And that is the truth. It's funny too, when I was flying somewhere, I remember I spoke to a woman who worked at the airport. And she had said that she had given birth 3 times, had malaria twice, and hemorrhagic fever once. And she said the pain from the hemorrhagic fever was by far the worst out of all of it combined. I'm like, yeah. It's tough to explain. When some people, they'll get a little bruise in their fingernail and start crying the blues like they're about to die, right? There's different people who describe their pain at different levels. And I got some friends of mine, if they tell me they're hurt, they're frickin' hurt, right? And then you got other friends who tell you they're hurt, oh, you're probably fine. You know what I mean? But anyway, today's pain was right frickin' up there, man. It's just exploding right there. Feels like I got a hair lip right now, but I don't. Excuse me, but yeah. So I just got some antibiotics, painkillers. Let that go down and then see what the old doc has to say, right? Go to the dentist, I guess, find out what the hell's going on in there, but apparently it can be quite serious. Having an infection in your head. What's it called? It goes septic. Sepsis. Sepsis is what it's called. What happens? Going septic. It's when your infection can move into your blood and then kill you. And I had a real good friend of mine with 3 young daughters. He had that happen. He had an infection and went septic, and it killed him. So we went to emergency. Now, I think I can handle it okay for a bit here. What else am I going to do? Sit inside and mope? I can't really work outside because the vibration makes it thump more. So, I'm going to share some more voices that I can do. Now, listen to this one. Where is it? I had this emailed to me, and the location was in the in the title. So I read it while it was sitting there. Listen to this. This is titled Bigfoot Sighting in Port Alberni, 2006. This is sent to me today or yesterday, I think. Hello, Steve. My name is Lauren Phillips. I was born, raised, and live in Port Alberni, BC. Feel free to use my name and location, as what I tell you is the truth. I stumbled upon your channel about a month ago and enjoy listening to you share stories of other individuals from all over North America about their Bigfoot experiences. I also admire the stunning wildlife footage you share with us at the beginning and end of your videos. Cool music that accompanies it as well. Excellent work. Thank you for the kind words, my man. As a child growing up here, my grandmother and mother would occasionally tell us stories of individual experiences they had with Sasquatch on their farm back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. They had no reason to lie about it, and the story would always be the same when it was told to us. I always thought they existed among us. I drive taxi here in Port Alberni, and one night, early May 2006, around midnight, I was driving back from the Sprout Lake with a passenger that was intoxicated, but awake in the front passenger seat. We were on the Pacific Rim Highway, just crossing Sasquatch Road, coming down the hill towards Hector Road, when my headlights caught this creature crossing the double line in the road. He's walking kind of hunched over, with a hobble to its walk. It had black short fur all over its body, with the exception of its face. When the lights in my cab hit its face, I noticed it had very wrinkled, light-colored skin on its face. It didn't look at me, so I only saw the side of its face. I noticed it was very skinny, with very large, slender hands and feet with skinny arms and legs. I figured it was 7 or 8 feet tall if stood upright, but it was hunched over, so it was hard to tell. It was on a mission to get to the other side of the road where there is trees, brush, and a swamp-like setting there. There were no other vehicles on the road behind me or coming in the other direction. My passenger said to me as we passed the thing, quote, "What was that?" I said, "I think that was a Sasquatch." He said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "No, that was a Sasquatch." He didn't say anything else on the rest of the cab ride home. I know what I saw, and it wasn't human. The way it walked and how thin it was with the large thin hands and feet convinced me it wasn't human or anything I had seen before. I didn't stop when I saw this thing at the time, as the Pacific Rim Highway, or Highway 4, is a major highway that runs through Port Alberni where I saw the thing. There was a bend in the road, so I didn't want to stop and look where this thing went, as I didn't want to cause a possible accident. Also, it was raining lightly and it was dark out. So I would find it hard to believe someone would be playing a prank on a dark, rainy Saturday night, crossing a major highway in a gorilla suit. Most people at the time were in the local pubs or nightclubs at that time on a Saturday night, or at home on a rainy night. Since then, I have told a few people about my experiences here in Port Alberni, and one of the First Nations people I spoke to about this said, "It sounds like you saw the old man." She told me a few people over the years, as well as herself on that reserve where I saw it, call it the old man. Well, that's my story. I didn't have any negative feelings about seeing this thing, just surprised. Keep up the great work. Feel free to email me if you have more questions about details you may have. Sincerely, Lauren Phillips, Port Alberni, BC. Lauren, absolutely appreciate you for emailing that in. Absolutely. What would I have to say to that? It's always easier for me to reply on here than it is emails, right? I would say I really, really would love to know the stories that you were told growing up in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and as well, I don't need to know exactly where the property is, just the roughie. Just give me the roughie within 5 square miles, 10 square miles, I don't give a shit. A farm around here, especially in those years, could be anywhere. And then as far as the location of this particular sighting goes, you guys, it was just right over there. Right? It was just right over there from where I am right now. And also from where you guys see me sitting on the quad down by the river and having things thrown at me. If as the crow flies, I'll bet you that's about 1 mile. Now, yeah, maybe a mile. Yeah, I'll bet you maximum. This sighting was 1 mile away from where I sit on the quad. And get everybody heard up. So there you go, Lauren. Appreciate you, man. And yeah, anybody else from around here, you want to cut loose? I know you're watching. You want to cut loose and share what you know? Do it. Just do it. Get it out. What do I know off the top of my head from right around this area? Obviously, we've already talked about the Stamp Sumas River. Many anglers have ran into these, had these sightings there. Many people have said flat out, you want to see one of these beings, just walk the Stamp River. That's all you got to do, especially right now. Is what it is. That's if you want to, if you're into it. The highway between here and Tofino lit up with experiences, one after the other. The First Nations band in Ukiulit. To the point now they drive home on the gravel road from the highway to the community. It's just basically so-and-so saw another one on the road. It's like seeing a deer. That's how common it is there. Kennedy Lake, right there, same thing. Tofino, lots. And anywhere and everywhere in between here. And you know that opener video that I've made for this channel where you can see I'm flying along the river? I've had it for a few years. You see the eagle flying way down below there and you see me walking across the bridge. Boom, that is between here and Ukiulit, Tofino. That's where I made that video. That country there. You can see it on the opener video. Maybe if I can think about it, I'll put that for the beginning of this video. Or the end, or whatever. Campers. There's a campground just up here on the other side of Sprout River. Lots of people have ran into these beings right behind that campground, right up there. Also heard of another reddish hair covered human-like being with blue glowing eyes standing on the road to the hatchery right over here. I've had a guy, rented a guy from the hatchery, works at the hatchery, volunteers his time in the hatchery, mentioned something about having a coworker there who knew quite a bit about these beings, and I mean to go back to the hatchery to speak to whoever might be working at this time and drop the quick question, see what they got. What else? It's endless. Horn Lake Caves, that way a little bit. Google that up. Cameron Lake, Mount Arrowsmith, Forbidden Plateau, right over there. Right, Mount Washington, Comox Lake, straight up the valley. Right in the crosshairs of Ground Zero, in a way, on Vancouver Island. So anyway, Lauren, sorry for the babble, but I would love to hear what you learned through your family growing up, alright? I'm sure everybody would. So if you could, share it up. Who's next? This is titled Bigfoot. Hey Steve, my name's Isaiah. I'm 17 years old. Me and my grandpa watch it all the time for multiple years now. Well, let's get into it. This wasn't even a month ago. I was sitting outside on the porch of my house one night. It was around 4 in the morning. I couldn't sleep. It was pitch quiet. All you could hear is bugs, and I hear a weird noise behind my house. It sounded like a heavy pebble hit a piece of tin, then it moved off to a different place very fast. I kept hearing it multiple times. Sometimes the sound was fast, sometimes it was slower. And I was like, what the F was that? Kind of freaked me out a little. So I sat there and heard it again. It sounded closer. I got acres upon acres of woods around my house, so I continued what I was doing and I heard it again. So I was looking in the woods to see what I heard. When I did, my vision got really blurry and I had a very intense feeling. It was so bad. I've never felt like that before. So I went inside and instantly went away. A few minutes later, I decided to go back outside. I saw a possum come down the tree and it stood on 2 feet, sniffed the air and ran back up the tree quickly. Had to be something in the woods because The possums around my house ain't scared of me at all. They walk around you like a house cat. Well, that's my story. Hope it helps you and the other people on the channel. Thank you, Steve, for what you do. Okay, Lee. Appreciate it, man. Make sure you keep listening to the people here, okay? Make sure you listen to the people. As many as you can here. Listen to the people. That's where you're going to get your information from. That's as well as where you're going to get your knowledge from so that you have tools to deal with this shit if it gets worse. And you'll also have first-hand experiences to share with you on what people have done. All right? What people have done to maintain their sanity and coexist, or whatever it is you need to do. And if anything else happens significant, anything that you need to get off your chest or help somebody, make sure you get back to us, all right, man? You found your safe place. Here's another young person. Hi, Steve. My name is Caden. I'm 12 years old. And my grandpa and me watch your channel all the time. I want to tell you about my encounter while camping close to Brian Head, Utah. So one night, I was just sitting there in my tent in what looked to be a place where a deer had sat, but a spider fell on my tent and it interested me, so I was shining my flashlight at it so I could see it moving around. My rain cover for the tent was off and my flashlight died. So I was gonna go to sleep, but I couldn't because I kept hearing footstep-like sound of people stepping on sticks. The sound happened like every one or so minutes, and then I just said, screw it, I'm going to bed. I closed my eyes for a while until I heard a rustling. So I opened my eyes to see a huge figure standing right outside of my tent, what seemed to be staring right down at me through the top of the tent. It was pitch black, but I could see it because of the reflection of the moon, except for any human-like features. All I saw was the figure. And at my age, all I could think of was hiding under my sleeping bag. But I checked to see if it was just a tree or not. But the tree had any outline even similar to the figure. Okay, so but the tree, I'm thinking you meant, but the tree didn't have any outline even similar to the figure. And I couldn't sleep for about 4 hours after seeing that. Then the next day I told my gramps what happened that night, and he said, "You're not sleeping in that damn tent tonight. You'll be sleeping in the camper." My grandpa believes me because he had his own encounter when he was young. It freaks me out to sleep in a tent from now on. If you read my story, thank you for what you're doing. It will help a lot of people. And we need to get the word out there that the Sabe are real and not some made-up fairy tale. And that's what you're doing, young man. And you're doing a good job, all right? You just did it. Now, you're probably going to guess what I'm going to ask of you right now is maybe possibly, would you be able to get your gramps to share with you or us, or share with us through you, whatever, what he knows. What he knows, what he saw, what happened, and where it was. If you would, if you could, and if he would. I think that'd be great. And keep listening to all the people here, all right? Listen to all the people here. All right, who's next? All right, this sounds bizarre. Fair size email. Here we go, going in, taking everybody with me. This is titled, Doug's Truth. Teleported back to truck. Private, please, Steve. Ah, shit. Another private. Sorry, you guys. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, gotta take the rat off that and I'll read it later. You have to keep your word with people what they ask of you, no matter what. No matter how many people it pisses off, you have to do it, alright? Alright, here we go. What's this one? Mark this as red. OMR Jordan. Hi Steve, you shared one of my encounters a year ago or so when I was in SAR back in the 70s. That would be search and rescue. This encounter took place in the fall of '82 on a day hunt for blacktail. That's a deer species on the coast. The location was several miles from Enumclaw, Washington. Or it's Enumclaw, Washington. Or it's Enumclaw, Washington. Enumclaw. My wife and my wife and 1-year-old son came along for the ride. This encounter would be better explained verbally, but I'll try and put it into words the best I can. At no time did I see what it was. We were heading back up a Forest Service road and pulled into a small abandoned gravel pit. Excuse me, so my wife and son could stretch their legs and be safe from possible traffic on the road. The pit was just under an acre. It had a rather large ditch dug around it that I guess was to try to keep the pit from being filled with runoff. I noticed fresh deer sign and decided to take a look around. I left my wife with a handgun and let her know that I would follow the ditch around the hill in the back of the pit and come back on the other side. It would take me less than half an hour and still be close if they needed me. The hills on either side of me were second growth fir, and the game trail alongside the ditch had alder, vine maple, and salmonberry. There were recent deer and elk sign, and when I got to the back side of the hill, there were several old beaver ponds, and the ditch now had water flowing in it. The trail heading back to the pit was now wide enough for a quad to run on. As I walked back towards the pit, I could hear water running in the ditch, but could not actually see it anymore, as the older brush was too thick. I was within several hundred feet from dropping back down into the pit when I heard something move about 10 feet ahead of me in the ditch. I couldn't see anything or hear anything for several moments after that initial sound. I unslung my rifle, cradled it in my arm, and moved right up to where the sound came from. Not able to see into the brush and saplings at all, and thinking it was just a muskrat or some other small critter, I leaned my head towards the bushes to try to look in, and was blasted with the most terrifying hissing sound that in all my experiences I've never heard before. It instantly froze me in place, and I could not move at all. Here I am on the very edge of the trail, on my tiptoes, leaning forward and slightly off balance with my face in between some branches, and I'm totally locked up with fear. It was the most ungodly hissing sound that lasted for about 10 seconds. It seemed much longer. It stopped when I willed myself with everything I had to finally move back one step and swing my rifle into play. It also, at the same time, moved back and stepped heavily into the water in the ditch. The sound seemed much bigger than just a little critter. At this point I realized the safety on my rifle was still on. I clicked it off, and the hissing started again. The tip of my rifle barrel was in the alder brush about 4 inches and up against a small branch. And if I had to get off a shot I knew I would miss, so I moved it in line with the direction of the sound and it stopped hissing. When I moved the rifle barrel, I had parted the branch enough to maybe give me a view farther in if I moved my head just a little bit. When I did move, whatever it was, moved back a little more and started to growl. Started a growl that was very low and sounded deep. It lasted maybe 3 or 4 seconds, and at the end, it almost sounded like a porcupine, but not quite. The only way I can explain it was a very short, garbled gibberish at the end, and even that doesn't explain it. And after that, the only sound it made was deep, heavy breathing. It had to have a lung capacity of at least double that of a horse. The first hiss came from about a foot above my eye level, and I'm 5'8". It's not like any cat, big or small, nor a bear, excuse me, or a Sasquatch sound that I have heard personally or from the internet. Just a very loud, all-encompassing S sound. Picture your hair being blown straight back with your face to the wind. That's what it felt like. I guess that it was less than 3 feet from me, and I couldn't get the slightest glimpse of it. I heard it readjust its balance and thought to myself, "Don't make me shoot you." Then realized that I couldn't hear it breathing anymore. I broke the standoff, first by backing away towards the gravel pit. I stepped backwards about 10 feet with my rifle still pointing in the direction of whatever it was. As I started to turn around forward, I could hear it take a kind of sliding step out of the water and go up the backside of the ditch. I could hear it move quietly through the alder saplings and see the tops move a little. I turned and walked several hundred feet back to the gravel pit. I forced myself to walk, not run. My thoughts turned to making sure my wife and son were safe. They were fine. My wife was sitting on a blanket watching my son, and I had a sense of urgency to get them loaded up and out of there without her thinking that something was wrong. We drove the old Scout mine out of the pit, and it quit as I pulled onto the logging road. No sputter or lurching, it just died. The engine would crank over fine, but it just wouldn't start. While I was giving the starter a chance to cool, I lifted the hood to see what could be the problem. I no sooner got the hood open, and 4 guys in a Jeep pulled up behind us and all got out. The driver and the passenger in the front seat came up to me to see if they could help, and the other 2 just boiled out of the jump seat in the back. Bailed out of the jump seat in the back. It was unnerving, to say the least, how they pulled up and jumped out. It took a few minutes to calm my nerves and be comfortable with the knowledge that they were there to help. No sooner than we started to talk about what was wrong with the Scout, the other 2 guys walked away. One walked down into the pit, and the other walked back up the road from the direction that they came from. They both walked out of sight. I thought that was kind of weird, and at the same time I wanted to warn them that it may not be a good idea to be going off in that direction. I couldn't bring myself to say anything. The driver, who was the older of the 4, noticed my concern and said, "They'll be fine," and that they were just taking a look around. We tried to get the motor to start, to no avail. Nothing would work. The older gent convinced me that it was the alternator, and that the parts store would be closed by the time we got into town, and that we could stay at his place for the night, and he'd bring us back up tomorrow with a new alternator. I talked over with my wife, and she agreed to the plan. She was uncomfortable with the idea as I was, but I just wanted to get her and my son out of there. This is the beginning of a horror movie. Right? We rolled the Scout back off the road, started to get our stuff out and into the Jeep. With perfect timing, the other 2 guys came back and we headed down and out of the mountains. How we all fit, I don't know. But my wife and son got the front passenger seat, and the other 2 guys and I got the little jump seat in the back, with me in the middle, and they on each side of me kind of hanging out the side and holding onto the roll bars. We get to the older guy's house and unload, and he says he'll go to town and get us dinner, and to just go in and make ourselves comfortable. I don't know where the other 3 guys went, but they were all gone, and there were no other vehicles in the driveway when we got there. They didn't leave with them. It was like they just vanished. When he came back, he had a pizza, milk, and diapers for my son. He set us up with some blankets and pillows and went to his bedroom, and we didn't see him until the next morning. It wasn't even dark out yet. This whole day had been too unreal to begin with, but there was something about these 4 guys and how they came to our rescue that I can't explain. The older guy seemed normal, except for it seemed from the start that he just wanted to get us out of there. The other 3 guys just seemed to be all business and not talkative. There is no other way of saying it, but they appeared from the start to be protecting us. Even the younger guy that stayed at the vehicles was preoccupied with our surroundings more than trying to help with the vehicle. I think it's important to describe these guys a little bit. I think it is. The older fellow was a little overweight, and I would say he was in his late 40s to early 50s, and had the firmest handshake I had ever experienced. It conveyed so much more than strength. I don't know any other way to explain it. The other 3 appeared to be in their early 30s and were, how do I say it, perfectly built beyond G.I. Joe with a chiseled chin. This whole ordeal was so weird and so much more than strangers offering help. Anyway, our host took us to the parts store the next morning and helped me install the new alternator and get us on our way. He could not accept anything but our thanks for all that they did, and we headed home. About a year later, my older brother bought a house within a block of the house we stayed at. No shit. I went to visit him, and he told him about the circumstances of staying at his neighbor's house. He didn't believe that it was the same house, as he knew that it was an elderly woman who lived there. We even walked outside, and I pointed to it. I wanted to walk down there and say hi and thank the guy again, but my brother said I was mistaken about who lived there. So I just dropped the idea when he wanted to show me an outboard motor he was working on. Sometime later during a phone conversation with my brother, he mentioned that he talked to the lady that lived in that house, and she told him that she and her husband had lived there for over 30 years. I'm positive this is the house we stayed in. It was all just too weird. I know with all my heart that what I encountered that day and the circumstances that followed were not natural. I've been miraculously saved more times than I would like to admit, and at the time I did not know why. With age and God-given wisdom, I know that He, God that is, goes before us and behind us, and His grace abounds to us that believe and know Him. P.S. I to this day do not believe there was anything wrong with the alternator. There was no reason for the engine not to start. God bless you, Steve, and all in the club and at the round table. I have several more experiences I'll try to make time to share. Gregor, OMR Jordan. Well, there you go. Shared. Take from it what you will, or leave it. Right? What's my gut telling me about this one? My gut's screaming for more. I would love to hear more, especially if you got more personal. Big time. But hopefully this knee-jerks somebody to share what they got. Right? There isn't a doubt in my mind this happened. But there's been a handful of other experiences where some people have shown up that were just off. Something was off, not right. Nobody knows who they are, but they showed up to deal. Without directly saying they were there to deal, they were there to deal. Or they were dealing, right? So, and are those guys here watching this channel? Of course they are. If they aren't, they're paying somebody to watch. 110% guaranteed. Right? Keeping tabs on all the people to see just how much more aware the people are becoming with each other at the same time. What's going on out there? When are one of you guys that knows going to accept the fact that we are all here together? Right? We're all here together. We all deserve the right to know as much as your brother, sister, your neighbor, whatever, was due. Whoever groomed you and convinced you that the people are to be lied to at all costs, how the F did you allow yourself to get in that position? Are you that dumb? Right? You are that dumb, aren't you? And why do I say you're that dumb? Am I lashing out? Am I insulting you? Nope. I'm just saying you got to be a special kind of dumb to allow any particular small, I'm going to say small group, probably human beings, to convince you to do what you do, right? What do? They stroke you, make you feel like you're some kind of above human entity, person, creature, whatever you want to call yourself. Your shit don't stink, you're the toughest, most smoothest, slickest being out there, and you got this? When all you are is somebody's little laborer, pawn, right? And here you are, ensuring that the people are lied to all through this lifetime. And you grew up probably playing hockey or baseball or football or whatever you did. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you're not from here. Who knows? I don't know. I'm babbling. It's just sometimes I just like to get my point across to those people who are watching. I know you're watching. And hopefully knee-jerk you into taking a good long look at yourself in the mirror. And then just ask yourself, just do it for shits and giggles, and just ask yourself, just exactly who do you actually think you really truly are in this lifetime, right? I'm not being insulting, I'm just being honest. Just give it a go. Sit in front of the mirror and take a long, hard look at yourself. Where you've been, what you've done, how you grew up, the good people that you met through life from day one. I wonder, and ask yourself how you let yourself get to be where you are today. Right? How'd you get there? How'd you allow yourself to get there? The only thing I can come up with is your special flavor of dumb. How else could you accurately describe that? So I guarantee you, there's no human beings or group of human beings that could convince me to not share the absolute truth with all of my neighbors and brothers and sisters, no matter where they are. Couldn't do it. Anyway, I better pinch that up before it turns into a huge, long babble, right? I'm starting to feel the pressure in my head still. Damn it, I guess what happens, you gotta get that infection down or something before you go in. So that they're freezing. Whatever they're gonna do is gonna do. They're gonna do. Maybe it's affecting my brain. Maybe I'm finally going crazy. Alright, hold on a minute, I got one more. One more. I can do one more. That's what the editing program looks like. It looks like I lost some lighting in some of it, but it's loading down the files. While it does that, I'm going to share another voice. So this is titled Living on Their Land. Hi, Steve. I moved to the Missouri Ozarks 5 years ago. Until then, I never had much thought about the Sabe. I wasn't sure what I thought about them. However, my time here has taught me they definitely are real and do interact with people. I bought a 24-acre property. That was part of logged land approximately 14 years ago. It's surrounded by thousands of acres of forest with beef farms scattered throughout. Roads are dirt and are one-way lanes. I do not have running water or grid electricity. I was planning to develop the land and raise meat goats to bring retirement money. I'm a 56-year-old female who lives alone. My adult son moved in with me, but since then has married and moved apart. However, the activity here is so profound, I have to believe my plan may not be a good idea. I'm afraid if I invade more of the forest here to put in structure, the Sabe may destroy it, or my animals. It all started almost immediately, upon being on the land. We bought two small shed or cabins as we plan to convert them to tiny houses. They were placed on the field temporarily. I wanted them down behind the pond in the woods, but had not cut into the large enough clearing to get through yet. Rocks started hitting them nightly, and the dog's chain was on the porch post, was slapped into the post very hard. I put up a solar light on the back side, which helped a little, but not for long. I would sit on my porch, which faced the pond, and set back about 150 feet. I have a multitude of frogs in the spring. They produce a very wonderful concert at night, which I would enjoy. Although one sound that was frequently made sounded way too loud to be frogs. It sounded more like a chimp going, ooh ah, with the range getting louder and then quieter. I ignorantly still thought it was the same frog till a few years later. We'll get to that. I also would hear what sounded like talking on the backside of the pond. I thought poachers were hunting, so I'd run back there to confront them. The noise stopped, no one was seen. At times I'd fire off a warning shot after yelling, "You're on private property." Then it stopped. I also would see bright white and blue lights when that was going on from back in the woods. That contributed more to me thinking it was people. I figured the lights were from headlamps. During one perimeter walk around the property, I came across footprints. It had rained a day or so prior. The prints did not lead anywhere, just two size prints next to one another. Fast forward a year, finally cut the clearing back and had the cabin slash shed moved behind the pond. Bad idea. I can only believe this was a favorite spot of these beings. It was surrounded by an embankment of trees and some were bent over the water. I'm thinking it was being used by them, and I intruded on that. Once back there, things escalated. There was walking all around the cabin, and yes, rocks thrown. As time passed, the cabin had trees on either side, pushed over right next to it. There were growls slash noises at the wall by my head. I was woke up to what people call tree knocking. I counted a total of 19 one morning. Then, knocks came from further out. I had a series of bangs in trees with rocks along my back wall many times. One night, a round orange orb the size of a basketball lit up my side window, then came inside. It seemed like there was a second one with it, but much fainter behind the first. I thought, come on, cut the crap, I just want to sleep. I rolled over, and there was an outline of a black shadow on my wall. It was like from the waist up, a large body and head. I wondered if it was outside, projecting through the wall. I turned back toward the orb to see if something was between it and the wall. On the side of my cabin, nothing was there. So I was pissed and just closed my eyes and went to sleep. I figured just more harassment, and whatever was going to happen would happen. I was exhausted and wanted to sleep. I woke up fine the next morning. One night I was zapped off of my bed and wondered, what the hell is going on? It happened again a few weeks later to my dog on my bed, and that made me mad. I go to the East Coast every few months to visit family. On a trip not long after the zaps, it happened in a hotel. I felt like I was being pulled up out of a very deep sleep. I felt a zap and up off the bed again. Phone and radio both on the bedside table making a white noise and electric crackling at the same time. I put a light on and nothing. I looked outside the window as I was on the second floor and nothing. Not long after, I had found some research about how the Sabe can zap you and also track you. I had no idea. During the fall holy days, my son decided to sleep in a tent during Sukkot, S-U-K-K-O-T. He put it up next to the pond, another bad idea. Needless to say, he had company walking around his tent and making a lot of loud splashing around the pond that night. He was so scared, he just prayed for protection. The rest of that week, he slept inside, LOL. He had left the tent up and the tent stakes were busted in half the next night. It was a 1/2 person tent that was very small and came like a rainbow over the top of the people laying in it. So, not like one with stakes sticking out, very compact, like something stomped on top to break it. Then a few days later, I woke to the 20-foot cedar on the embankment of the pond behind, knocked over and laying in the pond. The bottom looked twisted off. No long roots, nothing you'd expect to see. Oddly enough, most of the activities are directed at me, even when my son stayed close by. Okay, last year, 2022, I had an acre or so cleared further up my mountain and put up fencing for goats. I put a new shed/cabin up there to live in. At first, no activities. I felt some sense of relief from sleep interruption, but no, it started up here too. They began bending my trees. Large pines, 30 feet tall, bent over in almost half. Smaller was splayed apart that were upright. Excuse me. Then came soft pats against my bedroom wall again by my head. My generator would be open in the morning as if to say, fill her up, which was my routine once home from working nights. They strummed my woven wire fencing like a guitar several nights. My electric fencing gets turned off, and the door to a 10x10 kennel has the door taken off twice and thrown a ways off. My gates have had to be locked around the goat paddocks because they were unchained and open too. I've had the crawl space door leading under the house open as well. It had nails bent in half holding it closed, not latches. Not easy to open. Lastly, I'll mention about 4 nights ago I was woken up again. This time I heard loud chimp noises again. The boom, boom, boom on the ramp leading up my front door. I wanted to yell, "Hey!" but stayed quiet, more curious to see what they were going to do. Well, after the stomps, they ran past my front house windows. The ground shook like something I never felt. Imagine an earthquake might be similar. I've never seen anything, but I have poor eyesight. They could easily stay hidden in plain sight behind trees. I probably wouldn't see the difference. I don't want to see or interact, but being left alone would be appreciated. I've not moved forward with my plans on developing the land. I'm wondering how bad things might get if I do. Taking down wood seems to piss them off. The guy doing the clearing had to retape the boundary line 3 times. It kept disappearing. More of annoyances, but very real goings-ons. I'm not alone here as planned, and wished the uninvited company would leave. But I suppose I'm the intruder. If you ever want to try your luck for experiences, you're welcome. Bring a tent. You can hunt on the land. It's mountainous, with deep ravines, not very large by acres, but full of game and unnatural happenings. Best regards, Amanda. Okay, Amanda, I got you. I don't know, I wish Scott Carpenter was still with us. I send you his way, and he would probably have a lot of good information and tips to pass off to you, to give you a hand there. I don't know, what would you say? I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm feeling a little weird in the head right now. But I'm definitely not an expert. I'm not a Sasquatch counselor. I'm definitely the messenger for everybody's voices, and all I can say for me, what I would be doing was I'd just be speaking right out loud to him, saying, "Hey man, piss off and leave me alone. Alright? Leave me alone." But one thing you may want to try is infrared light. IR light. If you can get some IR lights that crisscross around the 4 corners of your cabin or your property, that's very effective. Or, although it costs a bunch of money, you go get a whole bunch of trail cameras and you crisscross them around your property facing out on angles, so that you imagine a beam encircling your house of IR light. That seems to be effective too. At least maybe just so somewhat of a border that you would like them to maybe possibly respect in a way, right? I'm guessing. I don't know. We had something beat on the house here when we first moved in, but we haven't had anything bad since happened. The neighbor had something walking on the roof. Had stuff thrown at me in the quad down on the beach down there, but I always just say flat out, just leave me alone. Leave me alone. I'm not into you. I'm getting truth known, but I'm not looking for you intentionally. I'm not trying to find out where you live. No, I'm not trying to get photographs of you. Although the opportunity's there all the time where I go, right? Anyway. There you go. Another one shared. I hope. I'm going to send prayers. Everybody's going to pray for you to keep you safe. Pray for you to be safe and happy. And hopefully nothing bad comes of this, right? Hopefully nothing bad comes of this. I think there's a whole bunch of other stuff I was going to share, but I forget. I should probably start taking notes, right? Especially with an infection in my head. Box of pewter items that are pretty cool here. Sarah's throwing them in. This is pretty cool. Big whitetail buck. Bighorn sheep, pretty detailed, pretty cool. Bighorn, I'm keeping the bighorn probably. Sasquatch face. Oh wow, there's an elk. Beauty elk. That's pretty detailed work. It's a big frickin' elk. That's pretty cool too. Wow. Fish. Rainbow trout with the actual red and green, the green speckled sides and the red sides on it too. That's actually a pretty good one. Lucky angler's gonna want to. There's another one. Anglers gonna want to get their hands on those ones for sure. And you go, of course, you got your Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Sabe being enthusiasts are going to want one of those. I don't even know if you can see in this light. But anyway, she's put them in there. There's 60 or 61 of these things. I'll keep one. I don't know which one I want. I'm imagining there's doubles in there, I'm guessing for sure. But anyways, there's the information for the person who created this is going to be in the bag. So if any of that's appealing to you or somebody else, I'm sure you'll be able to look them up. If there's something else in there you want. Anyways, it's all free. So I'm coming at you free. So she's going to put one of those inside every order that's ordered starting yesterday, I guess. Right? And you'll see what you get. And if you like it, you can contact the people who made it and see what else they got. So there. Share my story at howtohunt.com. And if I live through this tonight, I'll be back tomorrow. Oh, it feels creepier than shit. Having something going on in your head. That kind of pressure. But anyway, the link for Sarah's goodies, including those, will be in the description below the video. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Get it out. Just get it off your chest. You get to share it. It's funny how long it takes, right? For everybody to get it out. There's still people here after, quote, years of following the channel, and they finally convinced themselves to do it. It's crazy, isn't it? There you go. I've babbled enough. I'll be back tomorrow, God willing.